Okay. So I'm not sure if everyone saw the newsletter. So what we're doing today, sort of following on from the feedback yesterday at the last meeting, in which it came up quite frequently how much people like using the tools. So I had the idea of we started focusing on the pandemic and then we kind of didn't because we really got into the Pellin Tools. So I thought, let's put those two things together. We're whatever it is, 4 months into this unusual world situation. So let's focus on what tools we've used, and maybe it will come up what tools we might need to things that are difficult to cope with. I'd like Peter to start us off. Seems like you didn't hear me. Peter, we're ready for you to start us off with how you've been using the tools.
Oh, okay. Well, I think I really can say how much the tool of purpose has meant to me. And I guess particularly, which I can do, hit lows of the pendulum, because characteristically, I can have sort of highs of hope and determination, and they're pretty big. And then I can hit lows, and my characteristic low is sort of, oh, it's all meaningless, and who do I think I am, and let me tell you about all my faults at great length. I could do that and drop a hat if I had the audience. Most people will shut me up who know me. And I guess I've learned to shut up myself. But in shutting up, I've still got the lows. And then just trying, and because of our material on purpose, just being able to focus on that, grab it, pull it in, and particularly, my current work, which has always in the background been part of my purpose, and that is bring together therapy and politics, and how these two admirable groups of people can really miss each other, like how many psychotherapists and psychiatrists, either in the British Houses of Parliament or in the American House of Representatives and Senate? None. Last count. And on the other hand, those on the therapy side can, from Freud onwards, well, that's just ego, that's just avoidance, that's just, you go on about politics because you don't want to look at your childhood, and that's thrown around by my side of the railway tracks pretty heavily and pretty complacently, and we're often fairly clever in finding victims. Like we got one right now. We can put all sorts of psychiatric labels on him.
Peter, let me gently remind you to come back to yourself and how you've used the tools.
Yeah, so what I'm saying is that the tools of purpose And that particular part of and even then, I'm not trying to be clever, but I got into one of my enthusiastic, hopeful highs, okay? Well, up I go. So bring myself down and being brief, but the tool of the purpose is I want to find the right word, is undeniably strengthening for me at the moment. Just, yeah, that's me.
So I just want to say to people who haven't been here as often that we sometimes do this by being called on, coming in by being called on, and we sometimes do it by unmuting. And I'd like to suggest with this like free, open discussion that we unmute ourselves and come in with when we want to share tools. And maybe if we kind of go round once and then we might have questions of a particular person, or we might want to draw a parallel with somebody else's tool set, if you like. So let's just see how that bit goes. But let's do it like a round to begin with, where you're self-chosen when you come in. So I'll shut up to make room for anyone who wants to come in.
Daisy? Hi. The pendulum's really been a great tool for me because I have highs and lows, and it's just been really good to bring it back to the center with meditation and calm. I read 4 meditation books from my 12-step programs, and I meditate a minute when I get up in bed. I time it and I just listen to my breath in and out, smelling the roses, blowing out the birthday candles, and with the imagery, and then boom, a minute's over. And that's really been working for me. So thanks.
Daisy.
Hi, I'm Elizabeth. There's been a bunch of them. So, evaluating in terms of hurt and purpose has really saved my relationship with my daughter during lockdown, because I have been able to let go and do triage in terms of things she needs to do. For example, there were entire classes where I messaged the teacher for permission for her to, instead of doing whatever specific thing the teacher assigned, to just send in what she was already doing. Because the hurt, this was handwork class that she did this for. She goes to a Waldorf-inspired school. The hurt of forcing a headstrong and creative child to sit down and do origami is too big and doesn't serve the purpose enough of making sure she stays creatively involved and works with her hands, which she will do without being told if she isn't told. Yes, you can laugh at that. The pendulum's been huge, just knowing that when I feel those big lows, that it is going to pass, and that it's probably because I got high earlier. Just being able to not stay stuck in the moment. Oh gosh. There's more and I can't remember it, but another big thing that's just about the tools themselves is that addressing the tools as the tools has given me permission not to discount my own experience because it's not pathologically bad. I don't have to worry about if I'm having, for example, a flashback, if I understand that it's a memory link and everyone has those. Anyway, that's all for now.
Yeah, I was going to say, feel free if you think of, you know, I thought of, oh, I forgot those tools, I thought when Peter spoke. So, you know, feel free if someone reminds you of something that you've been using and you've forgotten, that we can come back in a second round.
It's Joe. I haven't been working with clients, but obviously my friends and I support each other a lot. And because I'm thinking so much about therapy training at the moment, I've been thinking what we can do to help each other. And one of the most important thing for me has been recognizing that people are wanting to contribute so much at the moment, particularly as volunteer shoppers or things like that, for people who are hiding themselves away. And I see contributions stymied. The system isn't working. People who are making offers aren't being called upon to actually help. And so I see two things happening, that people are getting angry with the government at the people who block their desire to contribute. And also I see people instead diverting themselves and instead choosing to think about their own purpose, and instead of contributing to others' welfare, they're doing lots and lots of online courses, but feeling I don't want to be doing online courses and giving this kind of time to myself. I would rather be helping people cope in this situation. And I guess that's become particularly urgent in the last 2 days because my area of the north has gone into lockdown, which is partly a way of the government avoiding the problem of Asian people and Eid, which is happening right now. So I do think a huge amount about contribution, and I really appreciate you, Peter, for telling us about the importance of this. Thank you.
I think one of the tools that I've been using recently has been, well, actually through this whole pandemic, has been accepted, rejected efforts and feelings of accomplishment. It's been really, now having somebody else working at home, it's been very difficult. And I've also been caught up in a lot of attraction to hurt with the pandemic and the craziness and you know, trying to limit that. But accepted and rejected efforts have been great because I've been able to focus on, okay, you know what, I've got a huge stack of work, I still do again, but let me figure out one thing I can do, and I know I need to focus. If I'm going to get anything done, I need to do one thing at a time. Focus on the one thing I need to do, make it a small task if I need to, and just get it going. And there's been sometimes it's been, all right, this really has to get done. Okay, I'm going to at least just, you know, get the thing up, get the article up, put the title in, maybe write the introduction, and if I want to back away, I can. And that's been getting me through. I'm not nearly as productive as I want to be, but at least I'm not completely unproductive. And allowing myself feelings of accomplishment for just smaller things. I also have a story of something just this last week that happened, that there were a ton of tools that became very, very helpful. And so I'm evaluating her. This might be a little bit of a longer story, but there's a lot of tools that come up. So if evaluating hurt and purposes, I think it might be I don't know, it's, at least I feel good about it, how it turned out. I decided, one of the things I decided to do to build authority as an astrologer is I needed to do a YouTube channel. I was actually it was Mary who said, yeah, you really should do this. I'm like, oh, I don't know. But then, yeah, I'm not, I don't have a great performance life force, and and I hate public speaking, but the logic of it made a lot of sense. So so I thought about it. I elected a time, and to do it, which is something in astrology you do, you find you look at the chart and you find a good time to start an endeavor, and that will give you, it won't do everything for you, but it will bring kind of luck your way, which a lot of what you do, a lot of things you try to do, your efforts on one side, but luck makes a big difference as well, in terms of getting opportunities and being in the right place at the right time. So I did that. And right after I did that, a class became available at Kepler College, which is which is a college that was started with astrology in mind. There's a whole lot of things, but they offer a lot of coursework. And one of them they did was YouTube for astrologers. So that came up. And also, the day that I had elected to start my YouTube channel, I got invited back into the International Society of Classical Astrologers. I had several years ago, when I was going off on a different path. It's kind of complicated. My mentor, my advisor, didn't like where I was going, and him and I got into a big row. We got into highs of the pendulum, and I ended up leaving. But he invited me back. He said, I'm not feeling as well. He's having some issues, but also he invited me back. He's like, I've reconsidered. I've watched your path develop as you've been writing about it, and I think it's actually a positive one. And he invited me back to the association. Well, this is background for what happened this week. I did my first YouTube video. Well, actually, it was my second one. My first one was really bad. I got some feedback on it. I knew it was bad. I was umming my whole way through. So then I did another one. It was more powerful and stronger. But it turned out, at least with respect, I got some hard feedback with respect to my mentor saying, you came on way too strong. You're stepping on a lot of toes, basically. And also there was somebody else, because even though he had problems with it, he still shared it, and somebody else saw it and thought, oh gosh, this is, what's this nonsense she's doing? And turns out he tends to be rude. But here's where I use the tools. I just do in the background to where we come up with and how it ended up turning out. I ended up, well, first, the rude person. I decided, okay, step back. I'm just going to passive listen to it for a bit. And then I just, instead of responding right away, I asked him some questions, and I got where he was coming from. And then I was like, oh, yeah, so that's where you're coming from. And then I was sort of able to use that, actually make the point that I was trying to make in the video, because he was doing exactly the thing that I think is a problem, in particularly with classical astrologers. But then I got into another row with my mentor about it. I went on the high of the pendulum, and and so did he. But I tried to bring myself to the calm, and I did tried to do passive listening to what he was trying to say. Rather, I didn't great. And then I contacted Mary, an advisor, to help me frame a response. I mean, I had framed a response, but when she looked at it, she says, oh, but you're doing a little too transparent there. This may be a part that he, right now there doesn't look to be a lot of goodwill. You're going to put yourself. I'm like, oh, okay, that's good, because that's something I tend to do. Sometimes I do have, often I am transparent where it's not safe to do so. So that was really helpful. So I framed a response. Then we had some correspondence after that, and then the situation and I did wait to send it until I was at least, I wasn't quite in the calm of the pendulum, but I was not quite in as big of a high as I was when I was first doing it. So I was able So we were able to have a conversation, and you know, and he did have a point. I mean, and plus there's a difference. I had been expressing my feelings about classical astrology differently because there was an article I wrote 2 years ago after we had the split, where I phrased something a certain way, and after we talked a bit, I said, you know, and I thought, you know, all right, well, this was lovely. I mean, it gives me some authority to be in it, but it's not worth it if it's going to curtail my purpose, was my concern. But we talked about it. He says, no, I don't have a problem with your purpose. It's just how you're expressing it, you know, and it's not getting your message across because it's just making people mad, or at least made him mad. So what we came down with, and I ended up changing the wording in the article I wrote, and I just got a message back to yay. So basically, and I'm still in the association, and so far things haven't blown up. So I guess that was a story about how using the tools made a tense situation, it was able to bring down a tense situation, so it just ended up being okay, and we worked it out rather than it being a big blow up. So thanks for my indulgence with the long story.
I'm going to share now. I just, this is a bit breaking the outline I suggested, but I just want to give you the feedback that if you remember, there's only like 3 lines of transparency, and the rest of it, I was so impressed with how you were so clearly coming from the pendulum, or from the middle of the pendulum. It was such a well-phrased, non-inflammatory response. I was really impressed. So just wanted to give you that feedback. So when I was thinking about the what tools I'd use because of the pandemic, I thought about the pendulum and true rest. I have noticed, you know, I'm very aware of what's happening with my pendulum because of having to monitor it so thoroughly in order to be well and in the normal range of pendulum swings. And I have noticed at various times, doesn't happen the whole time, but I've noticed it's a bit hair trigger. An example in the early days was feeling scared of people when I went shopping, feeling scared of having people near to me. And luckily that passed off just by the dance of people in supermarkets trying to keep their distance and mostly wearing masks, you know, so the fear passed off. But I can't think of another specific example off the top of my head. I'm just aware that I've thought things like, I don't think I would have been having this trouble if it wasn't for the pandemic. Just flaring up little pendulum things that I wasn't really used to having anymore, that happened because of that external stress. And then, you know, positive callousing comes in, and like I just described, really in the supermarkets, whatever the threat is the same, really. But, you know, being used to a situation comes in and helps. But even so, there are times when I get taken by surprise and my pendulum's a bit more volatile than I'm used to. The true rest one is, I'm working really hard because of my increased involvement with Pellin, and handling quite a few stressful situations, like a medical issue here in the household and things that came up to Pellin that were difficult. And so I began noticing, I think I'm not getting enough true rest. And you know, basically doing stay at home. I really only go out to go grocery shopping, even though there's some lovely countryside near here. And I wasn't going on the beach because it wasn't allowed, even though I could see it. So I'll just give you one example. Yesterday, I was like so tired, to the extent that my voice was like deep and gravelly. It was so hard to speak because I was so tired. And I had an appointment to do something in 3/4 of an hour, and I'd just been talking to Cynthia and Elizabeth, so tired. So I thought, okay, go on the deck, look at the sea, and be in the fresh air and the sunshine. So I went outside, and luckily for me, the sea was calm with light sparkles on it. So I just looked at that and I felt so refreshed. You know, I really had that wonderful true rest experience of feeling really refreshed to go back into the responsibility. And it did coincide with, you know, I'm a morning person and after 5 or 6 o'clock person, and the afternoon's hard. It did coincide time-wise, but even so, I'm absolutely certain that if I'd not done that, I would have been tired for the appointment. I'm going to leave that for round 1 because what Peter said made me think of something else. So we'll see where we are time-wise when we've gone all the way around. That's me for now.
Okay, this is Cece. I'll go next. I'm just so interested in what everybody is saying, which gives me the insight that the group is really part of the Pellin Tools. Working individually is helpful for me, but I really enjoy working being with a group that has other ideas, which I've been writing down a lot. I tend to do things better in groups rather than as alone. I do some things by myself, but I tend to do it better in a group. I'm in a women's group that meets every week online, plus some of us go to a river and talk. And I'm in a number of different social service kinds of organizations, which I guess keeps me grounded. Otherwise, I can sink fast into how bad the world is, which is pretty bad. This helps me keep in the middle of the pendulum. I think Stacy was talking about meditation, is that right? And I realize a problem. I like the idea of blowing out the birthday candles. I need something to focus on. I'm a Quaker and we're supposed to just be open, and I cannot do it. I need some kind of a guide, I'm afraid. So I was thinking that blowing out the birthday candles is a really good one. There's probably some other things I can take in. And there are some guided meditations I could do. And I guess cheat a little bit from, but part of the guided ones, you're still being open to the spirit, to what can lead you there. I just need a little bit help getting on the path there. I think feelings of accomplishment is a big thing for me, especially again in a group. This last week, there's a group called Friends Committee on National Legislation, where we meet with our lawmakers and in small groups and talk about some individual legislation. So I did that last week on the SNAP program. The SNAP program, if you're not familiar with it, is a program for children and families who are impoverished. And this is where I can go down because our legislature has not improved an increase. I could go off on that, but I gotta stay focused on it. And the idea is to meet with people who would be possibly receptive. So we did that again as a group. It helps me to stay grounded, that I'm with other people and can stay, in that group. I know what my spot is. I can go deep on that. And Cynthia, when you were talking about your experiences getting on YouTube first, I have to say that's fabulous that you're doing that. But I can also relate to the issue of getting negative feedback. I did, this was years and it still affects me. I did it, I talked to a group, and it turned out to be a massive group. I thought it was a little small group, but it was huge. And it was on a book I wrote on moral injury and exercises and therapy activities to do with people. And I thought it got a pretty good, reception. I was kind of nervous, but a guy on the air took me to the, back to the airport, said it was really boring. And I just, oh God, I was like, I was so flattened by that. That took me way down. And I just had this feeling, I'm never gonna do this again. I'm not gonna talk to anybody about this. No one will ever wanna listen to me. But then I had to come back, where would this one be? The tool on using your strengths. My strength is really more in group work than giving a huge speech. So that's what I focused on. It was very well received. Everybody got a lot out of it. So I have to recognize what my style is with people. But man, I said maybe I should, after that I thought, should I send them back the check they gave me? Should I ever? I was like devastated. Oh my God. So I really related to that, getting this. In my case, it wasn't even solicited. This was just out of the blue. That was terrible. And that really hit me. So I still have a little bit of that left, that feeling. So I have to keep going back. So keeping, getting positive feedback is a really helpful thing from people to kind of weigh out these things. So yeah, those are some of the tools I think I've been able to use.
So just saying this for Nikki who can't see. Then Nikki, there's you and Dan left.
Hi, this is Nikki. Just unmuted myself. Thank you, Mary. So I was thinking how as soon as lockdown started, it meant all my work was then on the phone, which was just really intense in my head, straight down out of the middle of somebody else's brain with all the complexity that they're saying, and down my ear hole into my brain with all the complexity in there, and then problem solving there. Whereas normally I've interaction with an actual person as well. Anyway, it was just even more in my head than normal, and the same was true for any other interaction with anybody. It was all, no relating to anything physical around me, just inside my head. But I hadn't worked that out yet, but I did somehow know straight away the thing for me when lockdown started was about true rest, and I was obsessed about how do I get that, because we were allowed out for so-called exercise once a day, and so-called exercise as in, for me it was about being able to see trees and grass and move through space outside, be in the world and nature. And so I've talked in this group before about the thing that I had going on for me is like, how the heck do I get to Wimbledon Common where I can get that, the size of it, and the variety of places to walk there. And so it was just all this problem solving to do with breaking the law by driving up there, or endangering my life by walking through town when nobody had a mask on. So what was I going to say about that to do with tools? Oh, true rest. Yeah. So I became obsessed with how to go about getting true rest, whilst and what was the thing, to endanger myself or to break the law. What was the thing to do? So it was, I had this whole other intense problem-solving thing going on in my head to try to have the opportunity to not to have a break from the intense problem-solving inside my head. But I did opt for taking the risk of breaking the rules, and then they changed the rules a little bit, thank goodness, after 3 weeks, I think, and you were allowed to drive for a short distance on a few. And then they did the other thing of cutting down the parking opportunities, and they just restricted it. And every week it was another squeeze. So it was like, again, then the real world was manifesting the whole same problem in my head, but I found it meant I squeezed down this mega private place and found this whole other little nirvana opened up of where the allotment holders can park, and that meant I discovered the whole magnificent private golf course had been opened up to people walking, and it's sculpted and fantastical. So could probably do with some help later to go, what's that got to do with tools? But yeah, all about true rest and my struggle to get it and my achieving it by the means of doing the thing that wasn't it, kind of thing. And somebody earlier mentioned the tool of I've forgotten the name of it again. I always forget the name of it. Not hurt and purpose. Accepted and rejected efforts. And it reminded me that I never remember the name of that tool, and I sort of tend to think of myself as not using it, but I realized that actually I've incorporated it in really intensely because I need it so badly, the protecting accepted efforts, to not have them turn, because they can turn in a flash into rejected ones. And I think I have brainwashed myself over years and years to just kind of fixate on that, really, to if there's a rejected effort, then I have to, again, it's a bit similar, all sorts of machinations to get around it, to not magnify it into getting worse and worse. Anyway, those are my thoughts on how I've used the tools.
Thanks, Nikki. Nan, are you wanting to join in or wanting to pass?
Yeah, no, I just, I kind of resonate with almost something of what everyone has said. For me, this quarantine or pandemic coincided with leaving my job of 40 years. And so, and I was thinking as you all were talking about just a couple of things. When my life was kind of dictated by external demands of my job, and all I did, I could really ignore my material life force, both in terms of my physical environment and in terms of my needing to make money. And this time has kind of led me to see how unbalanced I became during that period, especially the last 2 years that were so painful at work. I think I've also had to face how hard it is for me to reach out to advisors, that I'm kind of a little self-contained gnarl of whatever I'm living in. And so when you know, you're surrounded by people all the time, I guess there's some natural exchange and natural relationship with advisors. But when you're isolated like this, it has to be a conscious choice. But I'd say I've really had to watch not spiraling to the negative side of the pendulum and worthlessness. And I've really used the accepted and rejected efforts and small feelings of accomplishment, because I am really confronting how perfectionistic I am, and then how I don't do anything until I think it's a perfect moment. And then I don't do anything, and then I feel bad about myself because I haven't done anything. So I've been really actually concretely breaking things down into small feelings of accomplishment. The only other thing, which is not a tool, is, you know, I've never, because I worked in the same place for so long, and actually I was very connected to our national organization, which went bankrupt right before I ended my career, feeling kind of tribeless is a struggle. So, you know, where I don't have a natural tribe right now, and I'm trying to create a tribe with the Problem Gambling Network of Ohio. But it's different to be the newcomer in a system, and it's different. I'm used to being the authority. It's different to establish a relationship where it's new territory and you don't yet have any natural authority. So anyway, that's just kind of the my scenario. This has just been, and even I as an introvert am like craving social contact.
Thank you, everyone. So what I think might be good now is saying what such and such a person said made me think, you know, about ourselves, I mean. So my example is, oh, when Peter mentioned purpose and feelings of accomplishment, I thought, oh, yes. So that's what I wanted to share on in the second round. So I'll go with that and just repeat that. You know, somebody else's share. Some of you have done that a bit in your first round, and that's fine, of course. But what someone else said about X tool made me realize I was using that tool, and then sharing. So I've noticed this not just in myself, but people who have found a way to find feelings of accomplishment and move their purpose along despite all the restrictions and the outside stresses and worries, are doing well emotionally. Like I test that out here, just in a personal kind of way, and I belong to a therapist support group that I go to every week, and you know, and I don't have individual clients like they do because I'm so involved with Pellin, but you know, anyway, don't need to go on about them, but the people who found a way to adapt to Zoom and found advantages in it, and you know, are doing, you know, where they can still be in their purpose and still getting things of accomplishment. They are. It's like it creates a buffer against the horrible things out there. And you know, I watch callousing because I don't want to callous to this being such a terrible time of suffering, financial and grieving and illness for so many people. But you know, the Pellin Tools help me say it's okay for me to be in my own purpose and my own feelings of accomplishment, and to be getting something out of life, and that can lead into a contribution. I think that's all I need to say, really. I'm just not sure if I made it clear when I started that the pandemic started around the time, and the lockdown started around the time I became more centrally involved in Pellin management. So my purpose and feelings of accomplishment kind of leapt. in terms of having a clearer direction than I'd had for a little while. And something I forgot to say earlier was I had just on March the 4th, which was 14 days before California lockdown, done a performance, my first performance of my whole life. And it was very interesting to be so strongly in the performance life force as to go on stage really, really tired and uncertain after the not very good technical and dress rehearsal, and go, an audience, yay, I can do this, even though I don't know my lines. It was wonderful to have that performance life force experience, like in the raw like that. But, you know, now I'm going, I've kept my performance life force ticking over. You know, I go to writing workshops, I go to solo show online classes. So I feel, and I make my own collage cards and give card readings. So I feel like I'm nourishing my performance life force. It's really, and my dearest friend in Topanga is having such a hard time because she's so bored. And I'm going, bored? I can't quite remember what that feels like. You know, I'm kind of constantly doing stuff that interests me and gives me things of accomplishment, which is like pretty amazing when you've spent, as I spent most of my life not in that position, let's put it like that. Yeah, now I have finished. So what someone else is sharing sparked off in you, and then wherever that goes.
What Cecilia sort of commented with on my share before actually made me think about some more things about that. One of them, when I was in my class, one of the things, you know, because I get, and that was one of the first things that the instructor addressed, is like, trolls. What are you going to do if you put yourself out there on YouTube? You're going to get people who are haters, are going to get people who are say things. And one of the things that that she handles it actually is by having friends tell her, you know, read it for, and say, you don't need to read that, and sort of shield her from it. But I thought about that in terms of evaluating purpose, in terms of the things that I'm trying to do, is I am being challenging. I mean, I think that I do. And I'm going to get not just trolls, I'm going to get legitimate criticisms, because I'm cutting to assumptions that a lot of people don't even know that they have, and evaluating hurt and purpose. So, you know, in that, I was thinking about how one of the tools that's been really helping me, because I think my caring life force, you know, I get somebody say they don't like it and I'm all upset, and I think that they must be right. But one of the things that was really helpful with the tool of passive listening, that I've been passive listen, and just being taught that passive listening does not mean you agree with what they're saying or you take in what they're saying. It just means that you step back and then going to the other levels of listening to see whether or not there's, you know, and I think that really helped. Like when I got particularly when I was dealing with my mentor, you know, and that thing, trying to come back, it's like, okay, well, I don't know, going back and passive listening in the sense that I don't know, I'm just listening to what he's saying. It doesn't, and I think that's the hardest part for me of passive listening to hard feedback, is not, you know, and then sometimes I'll reject and go into a higher of the pendulum, but the hardest thing for me is not to immediately just take it in that what they're saying is right, and not just take it in, but then let it repeat in my head and become a bad memory link. And that is really a huge challenge for me. And I think just knowing about it and with that has, you know, I did it once. I don't know I'm going to be able to keep doing it, but I think that was very helpful in handling that particular situation. And I think I have enough material life force in mind to say, all right, you know, and I say, okay, well, if I'm going to do this, this is something I have to be able to handle. And I know that, and it's something I'm going to have to bite the bullet and try to figure out how to deal with, because it's going to happen, and just accepting the fact that this is going to happen. So, you know, and if I'm not ready to deal with this, I shouldn't put myself out there. And that was, you know, you know, and it's scary, but you know, so I guess that was about it. Thank you so much.
A couple of things for me. One is accepted and rejected efforts, and that's a particular part of the work that I've still got development to do on, because David Pellin called it a triangle, and the triangle sort of balanced the pendulum. Nice bit of work. I've got to get back to that. But I guess I've always grabbed onto that tools, and I do a great deal to try and make things accepted efforts, from painting for old furniture, bright colors, which is one of my favorite things. And that's about, and reorganizing my books 6 different ways. And, you know, a whole lot of accepted effort things, a whole lot of, you know, as we call formally, gimmick things that use that word formally as part of the tool of changing the rejected efforts, or not slipping into the rejected effort. But the other thing for me, I guess particularly now, is transparency, okay? And the relief, and, you know, really hearing what you said, Nan, and right, I can do this briefly. You know, I've been divorced 4 times, and I don't think I'm yet over my last divorce, which was 10 years ago. I lost my dream property overlooking, looking out to Capri and the Amalfi Coast. That was part of all that nightmare. Someone told me, gave me feedback a long time ago. Nikki remembers it, or remembered the time. Person gave me feedback like it was probably 20 years ago, okay? Well, not now. But back then, she said to me, Peter, you're a tough old bird. And I had never seen myself that way, okay? But, you know, someone of my age, position, all that, I'm an old pro. I can go out and put on the act, right? But, you know, behind that, there's a whole lot of pain. And not everyone sort of agrees with this or whatever. But I believe that with transparency and being bold about transparency, we can get a relief, okay? Okay, I've said that to you. And particularly recent times, I've gone through a lot of rejection. Things have been lousy, not easy. And even what I shared last time, you know, our last session, but I guess sort of getting that out there rather than holding on and being the tough old bird who can just present, yeah, I'm fine, don't worry about me, I've got it all together. No, that's not quite the case. So almost deliberately, like now, deliberately at times using transparency and taking the risk about transparency, okay? And I know some people put me down for it, you know. What have you got to offer if you've gone through 4 divorces? You know, you're a pretty wise guy, aren't you? But, you know, taking that risk and going with transparency. Yeah. That's me.
I just want to come in and say that there's a slight change in Zoom that I don't really understand, which means some of you can unmute yourselves and some of you need me as the host to invite you to unmute. And I can't control that because I don't know why it happened. So if people could be so kind as to put their hand up if they find they can't unmute themselves, and I'll make it possible.
Hi, this is Elizabeth. Pardon me not turning the video on. I did not get a lot of sleep last night. So when Cynthia mentioned, and Peter as well in the second round, accepted and rejected efforts, it reminded me what a game changer protecting accepted efforts has been for me. For a small example, I am lucky enough to live in a very safe neighborhood, so I get to go for walks late at night when the weather's cool and there aren't other people around, so I don't have to worry. And I have fibromyalgia, so exercising is incredibly important, but so is staying within what my rheumatologist calls the energy envelope, my energy envelope, and not pushing too far. And going for a walk is a very accepted effort for me when I'm well enough to get started on it. I put my music on and it's just me and my thoughts, and it's a lovely time and I don't want it to end. And what used to happen is that I would push myself until I was in pain, and then I wouldn't be able to go for the next couple of days because I'd pushed myself into a flare from walking so long. And that was, turning an accepted effort into a rejected effort. But now I stay very aware of quitting when I still want to keep going, so that I'll want to go the next day. And that's been really useful. That's all.
This is Cease. Again, people have brought up this issue kind of changing direction, changing the purpose maybe a little bit to make it work. When was it Nan who was talking about being a volunteer related to gambling problems? That's similar to some of the things I've been thinking about with being a psychologist, maybe doing something different that's not as taxing. I've done a lot of forensic work, which can be really taxing, especially when you're being opposed. I've gotten better at that, but it's still stressful, and I don't know why at 71 that I necessarily have to keep doing that just because it's kind of exciting, but it's also okay. So I'm trying to look at seeing the path as being wider. What Elizabeth was saying, really, instead of pushing myself so far that it gets painful, backing off from that. And I think that's true about my work now, that rather than pushing myself to stay doing this forensic work when I really don't have to do that, back off from that and do things that are more enjoyable and maybe just as purposeful and just as can create just a a better well-being for me had think, oh, this is so exciting. Keep more focused on what's really good for me. I guess that would be getting true rest, and staying more in the middle as far as my health, and kind of repurposing my goals in life. And some things that I thought were so important, I can really, they're still important, but maybe they're just not for me right now. That's it.
I appreciated very much what Nan said, and what Seth says has resonated with me too, because I'm changing direction. And Nan, you used the word living with not having natural authority, and I realize that that is what I'm going to be doing, and I'm discovering that I don't mind at all. Actually, I can cope quite well without the status I have been used to having, but is a treadmill. So thank you, Seth and Nan.
You know, this is Nan. You know, I like the excitement of learning new things, but I without this previous title and job where I was the CEO of this company for 40 years, I'm really facing how sensitive I am to rejection. And so it's kind of a new, where I'm excited, but I'm very aware of the least bit of rejection. Like the other day I was on a Zoom call with this new problem gambling network group, and at the end of the call I'm thinking, you know, I'm too old, I talk too much. I mean, I did this whole kind of negative inventory where I don't know that anyone thought anything about me being too old or talking too much. I actually felt like I restrained myself, but I'm finding without the confidence or whatever, I'm really aware of how sensitive I am to criticism or rejection, and flashing back to painful professional periods in the past, and it can just bring me right down. So yeah, it is a new journey for me, and I value the awareness, quite frankly, which doesn't mean it's always pleasant, but it does I do feel like I'm going to walk through this. But one of the reasons I wanted to connect with you guys today was just there isn't any natural source in this pandemic for me of contact with positive people. So I feel kind of renewed already, just having some additional contact. That's it.
Does anyone else want to come in on the second round? I guess we mostly have, maybe not Nikki. Did you want to say anything, Nikki, that somebody else sparked in you?
Hi. I think it's not really anything that was triggered by anything anybody else said, but I just kind of remembered, oh yes, this other thing I'm doing is struggle with things in the material life force department of life, which is actually, now I think of it, the department where I have the rejected efforts issue, and I have to pick my way terribly slowly around it. And there's problem solving things that I'm having to do, and just all these intricate little things to do with the material world, and some of them are tangled up in technology as well, which is another specific little material world struggly thing I have. So I guess now I think of it, that's the department I'm talking about when I'm meaning that I'm kind of automatically being really, really pedantic with myself about trying to protect accepted actions when I've actually achieved. I did 3 things suddenly on Thursday. Got some support on Wednesday and did a thing in 3 different departments, and didn't achieve, to my mind, achieving anything with any of them, but each one, it opened up the next struggly things that I've got to deal with, which will get me further along. So yeah, this is making me realise that actually accepted and rejected efforts is a tool that I use all the time, and I never had thought of it before. Thank you.
So, oh dear, what did I just think? I've gone blank. I was thinking earlier, I really like thinking on my feet in groups. You know, sometimes in Pellin, Italy, there were a couple of occasions when Peter had some personal crises going on, family crises, and he'd say to me 2 minutes before the group, "Mary, take the group for me." And I get a lot of feelings. Oh, I remembered what I was thinking. I get a lot of feelings of accomplishment from, I guess it's using my performance life force partly, you know, launching into something where I don't know what's going to happen in the rest of the group. You know, sometimes you're prepared, sometimes you're not. And then being able to say, oh, I can see what might work for like a next exercise. I really like thinking of exercises, and that made me think how much I'm looking forward to preparing for and then launching the Pellin online training program, because of the translating what we've experienced in training courses or individual sessions or Pellin Italy into a workable online training that's more formal than the forum. What I had thought of that I remembered wasn't to do with structured exercise, but was feedback to the new people, the people new to Pellin Tools, which was like, it's very impressive both about you as individuals. Stacey had to go, unfortunately, she was needed by a family member, but you as individuals and the accessibility of the tools, it's really interesting to me how quickly, and I know the 2 people are still here, Cynthia and Elizabeth, had a bit of background over the last few years with mini teaching from me. But even so, it really shows how you've integrated the tools into the way you think about life and been using them, and that's like really exciting to me to feel that. So I guess what I thought of was something like the last thing I just suggested was what someone else sparked in us. So maybe like a nice thing to do now would, again, we've been doing it a bit in the course of what we said, but if we wanted to say some feedback to you know, add to that feedback that some of us have spontaneously given to people who are here today. Is that clear? Right, I was just, I'll continue. I was thinking of stopping, but I just wanted to say to Nan, like, I really felt for you, Nan, about the being in a situation where you don't have the protection of your long authority, and how you know, just how hard that must be to a bit like be starting out in from scratch in a set, not from scratch, it's not from scratch, but emotionally it had building a new authority and feeling a bit naked in that emotionally, even if other people don't know it that you're working with, just how challenging that must be. And you know we're here for you, even if you're not very good at reaching out when you need us. Pellin's always there for you.
Thank you. It's I mean, I feel positive about it, but it is a new lane of vulnerability for me, but thank you.
This is Cece. I'd like to add something. I don't know whether it's kind of relates to what you just said. I don't know whether I said last time that I'd had some health problems. Did I say that last time? I was in this study for at the University of South Florida on like brain games to play to help your brain. But I had an MRI before and after, and I got back, they sent me the results, and the results were not what I thought they were going to be. I know, egotistically, I thought, well, that's a great brain she has, No, there were lots of problems with my brain, and that completely freaked me out. And it broke through this, I don't know what you would call it, this fantasy somehow that I was kind of invincible, or I'd never get old, or my body was going to always stay good, or it just broke through that, okay, I'm done all these good things, there's nothing that could happen. I don't know what that would be called, but it was really devastating for me. Fortunately, I went to a neurologist, and she said, it could be something, but we're not too worried. So go get some testing, which I will. But it really, somehow it relates to what Nan was saying, this new model of myself that I need to look at, my real, can I really carry on like I did, 20 or 30 years ago? And re-looking maybe at my purpose and more the rest stuff, true rest, be really careful about not overextending myself. So it's like a new chapter in my life. And I'll just put in a little thought for this. I would like I don't know whether this is at all considered appropriate, but I would like, when we were at Pellin, we did a lot of Gestalt work with the two chairs and looking at two sides of an issue or two sides of ourselves. It'd be great if we could do a little bit of that, not necessarily in person, but we could do some writing of it, some little exercise where we wrote about like my old self talking to my new self, or something. You know what I'm saying? And we share some of the insights we got from doing that. I think journaling has always been a great tool, but it's one of those ones I never actually did for very long. I go back and find a journal from Pellin the other day. What was it, 25 years? I don't know, a long time ago. Maybe 40 years, I'm not sure, but it was, but it's something and I would like to make it more of a process for myself. That's just a request I have, if we could do that every once in a while as a possibility. And then maybe share what we got out of that.
That's a nice idea. We'll certainly take that into our discussions, because we haven't had time to process the last session with people's suggestions about changes they'd like. So yeah, throw in any of those if you want to. We've got it all to process and take.
Yeah, I just like to comment on that, agreeing with Mary. 40 plus, cease. I would love to do that, okay? And I've been thinking about it a lot. I want to be very aware of safety plus confidentiality. This is a as I said in a different context today, I'm not 19 and a half and totally familiar with technology. So I just want to, I mean, I love the push and suggestion about that, Cease. And that's where my thinking is going. But I guess I really want to get it right. And well, you know what Pellin was like 45 years ago, or, you know, or 10 years ago, or 2 years ago, Nan and I. You know, we're all there. We can work stuff out, right? If something goes wrong, well, you know, we're all sort of contained in a space. And we have a familiarity, and, you know, we can exchange a look that might be angry or might be supportive, or, you know, I don't know, I get up and storm out of the room a little bit and something, oh God, you know, he's not handling something very well. You know, we had all, for 50 years, we had all that. And I really appreciate what you're saying, Cease, because I don't want to take my unfamiliarity around this into slowing down. I don't want to do that. But I want all your help, and given that, you know, different degrees of contact and knowledge of each other and closeness, so we really get it right, because I believe we could do it very, very well. Partly we could do it very well because we've got and I hope it's okay, I do want to take up this bit of time now deliberately, because it's almost laying down sort of policy. But, you know, we have had, and particularly in terms of Italy, I think we're alone in having, with one exception, total safety record, okay? Nobody has that. One exception was someone who, sorry Nan, came from Ohio with LSD in their luggage, okay? We literally had to fly that person back to America accompanied. That was like in 73, 74.
Go Ohio, go Ohio.
Exactly. I did apologize.
Well, they think we're just a bunch of beef cattle out here. No, we're more exciting than that.
Exactly, Nan. Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Cross the Rhine. All right. And so, and I think with all the different experience here, from new to old, and both I think are crucial, you know, we could get that part of our work, which to some extent is a straight half of what Pellin is Gestalt chair work, historically. I think we could get it really, really well, safe. But you can understand why I'm concerned with safety. And of course, it didn't happen elsewhere, but there's something about, you hear the horror stories about social media, don't you? They're sort of headline news. So I just want to get it right, but I absolutely want to pursue that direction very, very much.
I wanted to say how much, Cease, your suggestion would work for me, particularly the old self to new self. And I'm thinking, I know quite a few creative journaling techniques from courses I've done by Simona Parker and Ira Progroff, who might be useful for you to look up if you just want to do it quickly, because it's very structured. And you finish off with an image of the open future. So that's how you create the synthesis, really, of the dialectic. You give yourself an image of the open future that you would like. And I just wanted to share an image with you. I was talking to somebody yesterday who was saying how amazing she felt, how amazingly all right she felt, considering it was such an awful situation. It's the hanged man in tarot. It's this person who somehow, I don't know if you can see it enough, this person who somehow manages to feel all right and even have a slight smile on his face, despite the absolutely extraordinary circumstances he is in, as somebody hanging by his foot from a tree. Thank you.
Okay.
Hi, it's Elizabeth. First of all, I want to say that I absolutely volunteer to get on camera and be a Gestalt guinea pig. It sounds like an absolute blast. Second, I want to say that, Peter, when you were talking about turning rejected effort into accepted effort, I was totally envious because I have always my whole life had this huge heap of rejected efforts, and I have tried in recent months to turn them into accepted efforts, and not working. And I would absolutely love a session where we covered nothing but dealing with rejected effort. That's all.
Just to that, Elizabeth, if you haven't already, look at the chapter in the free Pellin download of the manual, because some of what Peter, what did he call it now? Gimmicks. Thank you. It's really important with rejected efforts, because you can't do it just by will. It's like, you know, does it work to have someone do it with you? Does it work to give yourself a treat? Does it work to do? I once got through a really bad depression when I was at college. I could only type for 15 minutes at a time, and every second of it was agony, you know, type up a paper. And but I did it because I only had to do it for 15 minutes, and then I had a treat. So there's, I think some of those, I think I'm right in some of those. Am I, Peter? Some of those suggestions or some of those gimmicks are in.
Oh yeah, no, definitely.
So if you haven't read that, you might find that really helpful. And of course you can talk to me about it as well.
Yeah, no, because I think from memory, that's on a sort of list of future agenda items. So we could bring that in quite soon. You know, the next 1 but 1, just a session on rejected efforts. And just to be absolutely frank, this project of bringing back David's diagram of the triangle is really sort of really important for me, and something that I really want to get into. And I've turned it a little bit into a rejected effort. Okay.
Yeah, I'm really excited about that. There's a wonderful bit in the film where Dave's teaching. I mean, it's so brief you can't know what he means. We need Peter's help with it. But you know, where he draws the pendulum, he draws the triangle, and he says this is the something and this is the you. And exactly. I'm really interested in the triangle because I think that's a big part of how I got well, even though I didn't know about it. How Victor was talking about it a few weeks ago, about something about, you know, meeting a little goal, and then, you know, that you're going in a direction, you're going in an intended direction. You're not going, how do I reach this goal up here? And I know I really use that to help me get well, going from not being a responsible person who didn't carry out what she said to being able to be a responsible person that you could trust to do what she said. That was a very conscious journey for me as a mature adult who, well, as an adult who wasn't mature. Okay, I'll shut up.
Could I say one quick little thing? If you have Netflix, watch Babies. It is so great at looking how children learn, but also the idea, these are babies that are trying out all these words and seeing which ones catch on with their parents. I mean, just they're doing all these things. They don't know how to do them, but it's in their brain that they're going to go through this pattern. And I think it's so so inspiring that that they are learning this stuff so quickly. And so if you do it, you know, look at it and see if you like it. But I thought it was fabulous for inspiration.
Thanks. I wonder if we'll start doing a thing that's like, we'll put, because the things you suggested, Joe, and what you're saying, Cease, if we just sort of put them up on chat, type them in. Have I got that right, Mary? And then they're there, because I think there's a wealth of information, ideas, etc., etc. It'd be good to have it. It was just recorded in chat. Is that the right way to say it?
Yeah.
Technically.
Yeah. Yes, and one thing that I can do, and the chat doesn't come up on the recordings, but what I get after it's over, when I record, I have a little section that has chat. So I can like email that to Mary or something, so that people have a record of what was in the chat. If you like, I mean, I have them. I don't, but it doesn't. What I'm saying is, it doesn't naturally come. So if that's something you want me to do, I can do it pretty easily, I think. I don't know how it shows up when I send it. I haven't tried to open it, so maybe I'll play with it and see what happens.
Or, you know, or else if people who volunteer sources or resources put it in the chat, then each of us can make a note. But certainly if you did do that, Cynthia, I don't think you'd need to do it except after a session like this, where we know there's a couple of we've got one right now. Do you know how to use chat, Joe, to put in the ladies you suggested?
No, I don't actually. Can you hear me?
Okay, so if you go to the bottom of your screen with your cursor, it may be somewhere different if you're on a phone, but on a tablet or a laptop, I think you'll see a little box that says chat, and then if you type in that, then everyone can see it if they look at their chat.
On phones, there's 3 dots on the lower right that say more, and if you click on that, it'll bring up the chat option.
If it's okay, I'll go ahead and try to email the chat, today's chat, to Mary and see if it works. I mean, right now this is something somebody could easily type in, but there might be something later in the future we might want to have recorded and, you know, to send out. I don't know if that's something that you'd like me to do, but I'm willing to if you are.
Yeah, we can collaborate on that, I'm sure.
Okay.
So we're after the official end. So does anybody want to add anything in this last bit before we do? Well, or we could just go to geographical location plus anything you want to add. That's maybe, is that best, Peter, do you think?
Yeah. Well, I'm in Norfolk in England, and today was just great for me. Thank you so much. Yeah, I just want to say that much. So we go around, Elizabeth.
Hi, I'm Elizabeth in Eugene, Oregon. And thanks, everybody.
Nan. Maybe Nan's gone.
Wait.
Oh yeah, no.
Hi.
That's all right.
Nan from Cincinnati, and thank you all for your sharing today.
Yeah. Cecilia.
Cecilia or Cease Yoakum, Tampa, Florida. And we've got a tropical storm coming up the coast of Florida
Ooh.
on top of horrible coronavirus and oh my God, all kinds of other problems.
Okay, good luck.
Thanks.
Stay safe,
I
okay?
think I'll be okay, but others not going to be so good.
Yeah. Joe?
I'm Joe. I'm in Yorkshire. I've really enjoyed today. I've really appreciated the responses very much. Thank you.
Nikki?
Oh, is she here? I think we've lost her. I don't quite know why.
I think she is gone because she's not on the participants list.
Yeah.
Okay. Mary?
I'm Mary. I'm in Rosarito Beach, Mexico. And I'm ambitious to get the balance right. What I mean by that is I really enjoyed today and last week, but I want to have a place for Peter to share the tools with us, and but have more participation the way we had in some of the forums. So, but I really loved today. Really enjoyed it. Thank you, everyone, for your transparency.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. And
Well,
we'll
I
see
haven't
Hang on,
had the
you've
chance to
forgotten Cynthia.
Oh, sorry, Cynthia.
That's okay. I'm Cynthia. I'm Kankakee, Illinois, and I've been really grateful. And I was thinking about transparency as they were talking. It's transparency and contribution from hurt. I mean, I know actually it was both from the instructor and today hearing Cecilia's experience with being transparent about. Fear and being out there, and I think it really helps a lot because you feel like you're not the only one. When you get caught up in the thing, you think, oh God, I'm the only one who's experiencing that. But it's at least it's helpful for me knowing other people are experiencing some of the same things.
Okay, thank you. Well, thanks everyone for coming. I just want to hold up my coffee cup, okay, my Starbucks cup. Okay?
Yay.
Exactly. Okay. See you on Wednesday.
Right.
Okay.
Bye,
Bye-bye.
Oh, and
everybody.
on Wednesday, Peter, just say what you're going to do on Wednesday, because we do know. Remember? Values, what was it? About
Well,
values.
I did, yeah, I want to do something on values, okay? Yeah, let me say it very briefly. I feel various points of human endeavor and professions don't make their almost hidden values explicit, and yet it affects their work. So how values fit into this work, and for at least one more time, staying with the issue of politics and therapy, and I guess in a way, getting back to basic tools, the session after that, which will be a week today, will be on accepted, rejected efforts, okay? And we'll be on David's diagram of the triangle. That's 2 ahead. Okay?
That's very helpful for me. And oh, Joe seems to have disappeared, but I was just going to say I can be on for a few minutes if anyone wants to chat. Like we just opened it up for that possibility. For some people, it's good to end slowly. I'm one of them. And
Okay.
Peter, if you want to come back at the top of the hour, that's I'll
Yeah,
be
okay.
happy to do that.
Bye.
Okay,
Okay,
see
bye
you
everyone.
on Wednesday.